What's good, y'all? We back on Planet Rell, and today I present to you the Immortal Thor, episode 4. Let's get into it. So we start here with Toranos traveling through space, and y'all already know he's after Thor. And whatever you do, Toranos is coming closer. You can wake, you can work, you can eat and sleep, but Toranos is coming closer, and he's definitely gonna catch up to Thor. And the narrator finishes by saying, there are forces that even a god must bow down to. Now this is the third time that we have heard that saying, and it was said for the first time back during episode 1 and the second time during episode 3. Now we head up to Asgard, and Sif, who is the guardian of the Bifrost, who sees everything, sees that Toranos is coming closer and closer. And my boy Beta Ray Bill is here. And Bill asks Sif, is it true that Thor needs his help? And he asks her because Loki told him, and he like, bro, Loki lies and tells stories, so I need to know the truth from you. But before Sif could even say anything, Loki says that they told Bill. And Loki already told Bill because he was number 1 on the list. Like he was the number 1 draft pick. And Loki is like, I know you saw it, Sif, with your all-seeing eyes. And she says she did see it. Then she brings up things that she doesn't see because of Loki, like Thor's new axe, Tormod. And Loki tells Sif to ask Thor where he got it from because he might just tell her. Now Sif tells Bill that she knows that they aren't what they used to be, and that she can say the same for Bill and Thor. And she said what she said about Bill because they had a little fling going on back during Daniel Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill miniseries. And how that part ended, you just know it didn't work out. And then to bring up the topic between Beta Ray Bill and Thor, for those who haven't read Donny Cates' run of Thor, Bill and Thor fought. And that's because Bill found out that Thor was working with Galactus. But Bill didn't know Thor had reason. And when Thor told Bill his reason, Bill still opposed Thor because he was working with Galactus and that lives would be lost on the planets that Galactus consumed. But Beta Ray Bill didn't know that Thor was going to evacuate those planets before Galactus even consumed them. But the biggest thing about the fight between Beta Ray Bill and Thor broke Stormbreaker. He literally just completely destroyed it. And that did irreparable damage between their relationship. And now you see that here because Beta Ray Bill said he once called Thor his brother, but the bond they have now is fractured and it cannot be mended. And if their relationship does get fixed, I wonder how it's gonna happen. Now Bill states that he will be a friend of Asgard in the time of need, but fighting to find his own path, his own power. He wonders if he's still of Asgard, does he ever stand among them? And that after all of this time with the Asgardians, will he truly ever know the minds of gods, since he only is a man? Now Sif tells Bill that he's more than just a man, and Bill responds to her by saying that her words are kind, but they are just words. They're easily said, but hard to accept, and that if Loki is telling the truth, Thor better knows what he is asking. But the narrator says that Thor does indeed know what he asks of Beta Ray Bill, and that's because Thor knew the weight of what he asked better than anybody who lived. And anybody who held that weight was marked by it, even those who had greater weights to carry. And now on Arakko, we see Storm. And Storm is a commander of armies, but she isn't a queen, and there are no thrones on Arakko, but Thor is a king. And the narrator says that Thor is used to storms answering to his call. Then we see Huginn and Muninn, Thor's ravens, and they tell Storm that she has been summoned. And Aurora Monroe is the storm. And the narrator says that she shaped it as her birthright. And she is an Omega level mutant, so her power has no limits and nobody can surpass her. Then the narrator says that no normal winds could take her where she did not want to go. But this wasn't a normal wind. These were dimensional winds casted by an ancient magic by Thor. And magic is within Storm's blood, but she wasn't strong enough to counter these winds. But not yet. Now we back on the moon where Thor was. And he apologizes for summoning Storm so abruptly, and she'll accept his apology if he returns her to Arakko. And I do understand her urgency because she was about to fight Genesis in X-Men Red, and that is also written by Al Ewing, who is writing this story as well. Now Thor tells Storm to give him a moment because Thor couldn't trust his ravens to relay the seriousness of Thor's message and his urgent need for Storm. Now Storm cuts Thor off by snapping her fingers and hitting Thor with lightning. And that lightning strike looked like it stung Thor. Then the narrator says the blue and gray area of the moon have pockets of air, and along with that, weather. But now Storm is like, bro, your message was that urgent that you needed to kidnap me from Morocco? Take me back home, dog. Then Thor looks at her and says her name, then gets hit with lightning again. And Thor is like, bro, stop hitting me. And Storm is like, excuse me? But Thor tells her that he wasn't speaking to her, but instead the lightning. Now Storm is saying that she's tired of people making her miss her strikes. But Thor's like, dog, the lightning loves me just like it loves you. We shouldn't make it choose. And the lightning can't hurt me, so what's the point? And Storm says that she trusts the lightning to tell the seriousness of her message. But even though she loves lightning, there are more universal forces. And she uses atmospheric pressure to crush Thor. And she uses the atmospheric pressure of Jupiter. And that got my boy Thor ears bleeding. Then she tells Thor that he commands the storm, but she commands weather. And not as a king on a throne, but she commands the weather as an equal. Now the narrator is saying that Storm spoke the truth, and the only thing that Thor could do while the weight of Jupiter is crushing him was smile. Then Thor asks, who is stronger? And Storm is like, what? Then Thor gets up, opposing the weight of Jupiter on his back. Then he says about his question, those like him and Storm are always asked, who's stronger? Then Thor asks some rhetorical questions, like can he arm wrestle the Hulk, or race Quicksilver, or challenge Willie Lumpkin to a contest of wiggling ears. That's crazy, bruh. Then Thor says to measure the results and write it down to see who's worthy. But he says strength is relative to the need for it, and that if he has to stand on Jupiter, he will. He will stand on anything if the need is great and the cause is just. Thor finishes his monologue by saying that we are not measured by strength, nor by raw power, in the hammer within our hand. Then he throws Mjolnir. With the crushing air of another world on Thor, he throws Mjolnir with all of his force and might. And he threw Mjolnir at Storm, and you can see she caught it. And the narrator calls Mjolnir the Crusher, the great warhammer of legend, forged with myth and Uru, filled with the all-magic of Thor, the All-Father. And it brought trouble to all of Thor's enemies, but hope to those that are his friends. And when Storm caught Mjolnir, there was lightning. And it was written before by Odin. Then Thor finishes the saying, whoever holds the hammer, if they be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Now we see Storm wielding Mjolnir with the power of Thor. And y'all can see her whole new uniform, bro. That's hard, bro. Then right after that happens, Thor tells her to look up. And he was coming closer, but he is here now. It's Toranos, the Utgard Thor. And Toranos says some interesting things. That he was the first thunderer, and that he was with the gods at the forming of Earth. And that he's going to bring an end to all of these things. Bro, look at how big he is compared to Thor and Storm. Now Storm is like, bro, you summoned me to fight that? Yeah, you was right, it was urgent. Then Thor tells her that Toranos wants to destroy him and Midgard. And Thor suspects that Orako will not evade Toranos for long. Then Thor says what Toranos is saying is true. He is the elder god of thunder. And even with the all power, Thor cannot defeat him. But Thor has his own power and a plan. Then he asks Storm, will she trust him? Then Toranos says trust the wheel of fate and throws it at them. Then they dodge the wheel and Storm says that she'll trust Thor depending on the plan, and that she has her own power and that she has rejected Thor's before. And Storm says that she doesn't need the hammer to call down the thunder. And then through a portal, Loki arrives. And Loki apologizes to Storm about giving her the power of Thor as a scheme. And that took place during Giant Size X-Men Annual number 9 in 1985. Loki gave Storm the power of Thor, and Loki created this hammer that Storm has. And the hammer's name is Stormcaster. Because she lost her powers, but Loki was only doing that as a scheme. Loki had their own secret agenda. And that happens again during X-Men to Serve and Protect number 3. Thor brought Storm this thing that had her name on it, and it so happened to have Stormcaster within it. And she went to grab the hammer, but Thor's like, nah bro, don't do that. And she did it anyway, and she was corrupted by it. And then they fought for a little bit, but then they both grabbed onto Mjolnir and destroyed Stormcaster. And Thor didn't want her to grab the hammer because he knew it would corrupt her because of Loki. Like, y'all can see him in the back right here. Like, it was all Loki's plan. Now back to the story. After Loki apologized to Storm, Loki says to Storm, please don't throw that hammer at me. Then Thor looks at Storm and tells her to throw Mjolnir at Loki. And now Storm throws the hammer at Loki, saying that she trusts Thor's plan now. And as Mjolnir is going towards Loki, Loki is like, bro, I ain't catching that. That's a hero's task. And Loki says that they have one right here and tells Beta Ray Bill to come through. And Bill catches the hammer and Loki says, Mjolnir is yours again to hold high as a warrior of Asgard. And we see my boy Beta Ray Bill in his classic outfit, bro. And if you don't know, Beta Ray Bill was first introduced during the Mighty Thor written by Walter Simonson in issue 337. So Scuttlebutt, which is Beta Ray Bill's ship, was detected by S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury sent Thor to go check it out. And Thor got on the ship and was checking it out, and Beta Ray Bill saw him there and they fought. And Mjolnir was on the ground because Beta Ray Bill and Thor was just throwing hands. So Thor turned back into his human form, Donald Blake. And then Mjolnir reverted back into the stick that Donald Blake uses to transform into Thor. And Bill saw it on the ground, and he saw that he was worthy of Mjolnir since he was wielding it. And now he had the power of Thor. Now back to the story. Bill says that he forgot what it felt like to hold the hammer, and that it felt like all of Asgard is holding him at her very heart. And Thor says that it's a shame on him since Bill forgot what it felt like. But Thor says it's not the time for that right now because Toranos is calling his will back, and Thor and his team are not at full strength yet. Then Storm comes over like, yo, I see where this is going. She asks Thor how long do they have his power without the hammer, and he says 60 seconds. Then Thor tells Loki that it's his turn, and Beta Ray Bill extends his arm to Loki, and Loki grabs Mjolnir, and now Loki has the power of his brother, Thor. And that made me question, is Loki worthy? Because I know Thor chooses who is worthy now, but is Loki worthy of Mjolnir? But Loki has wielded Mjolnir before, and it was during the event Axis. And there was an inversion spell that turned heroes into villains and villains into heroes. Now in Axis issue 9, Thor was chasing Loki, and Thor was on a mission to erase Loki. Then Loki saw Mjolnir, and he said if he don't pick it up, he's gonna die, literally and metaphorically. And Thor was saying that he never loved Loki, and that Loki was a disappointment to the family. Then Loki whacks Thor with Mjolnir. Then we see another iteration of that same situation during Loki Agent of Asgard, issue 9. And that story is also written by Al Ewing, who is writing Immortal Thor. Now back to the story. Loki says the number of magic is 5, so there's a Thor missing because there was only 4. Now Loki and Beta Ray Bill throw the hammer in the sky, and Toranos tries to grab it, but nah, it wasn't going to him because the magic of Mjolnir is not his to command. And now Mjolnir was going to Jane Foster, who was once Thor, back during Jason Aaron's run, but she is now a Valkyrie. And the narrator says since the magic of Mjolnir was not Toranos' to command, and that power belonged to the Allfather. Now unlike Odin, Allfather Thor, the king of Asgard, was always happy to share. Then now he says to Toranos, you cannot defeat me when I was alone. But now Toranos, you face the THOR Corps. And now it's 5 against 1. We got Thor, Loki, Beta Ray Bill, Storm, and Jane Foster, all having the power of Thor. And I wonder how this battle is going to end. And now we see somebody talking on the phone, and I'm just like, I know that ain't who I think it is, bruh. And this person says, the movies are mine, the live action biopics are mine, the animated adaptations are mine, even the video games, the Underoos, the lunchboxes are all mine. And they hold the very first issue of Thor, Journey into Mystery, number 83. And they say that plain text can't tell the full story. So now they will tell the full story, and that they will create the true story. And this person says, within this time, in this place, in this realm, they will be the Skald. And to make them understand, in the name of Roxanne, who is thy first, last, and only God. When they said Roxanne, bruh, I already knew who it was. And this Dario Agger. And he's back. I don't know how, but he's back. Because the last time I saw him, bruh, he was towed up by Zemnu back in Immortal Hulk. And that story right there is also written by Al Ewing, if you didn't know. So yeah, that's Immortal Thor episode 4. And I just wonder what's going to happen in the future with all of this stuff, because we got Toranos, we got Utgard Loki, and Thor. I don't know what's finna happen, bruh. I just wonder what's going to happen in the future. Like, the way it ended, it seemed like Dario Agger was trying to create his own stories to make it real life, you know? And I say that because Dario Agger said that he will tell the full and true story. So that just makes me think, like, what's finna happen? Like, is he finna like change reality somehow, some way? I don't know, bro. We gonna see what's gonna happen in the future, and we know it's gonna be something good because Al Ewing is cooking, and he gonna keep cooking. So yeah, I'll catch you on the next episode, man. God bless. I'm out.